Welcome to our internal learning session for today. It's about cross-cultural communications. So this is a follow-up to our positive communications internal learning session, which you can still find on our SuperUMAn DAO YouTube channel. The way we will structure this, it's going to be more like a workshop. So I will be asking questions and I'm hoping I'll get lots of replies. And the first question I want to ask everyone is, what is culture? What do you think culture means? And if you, carry on. No, I was just about to say, sorry, quickly, if you are unable to speak, put it in the text hub and someone else will say the answer or the question.
Text Hub Greatness says culture is simply the way of life. And Rune Manny says culture is the lifestyle or way of life of a people or particular society.
Wow, we've got some intelligent folks here tonight.
Let me give it a try as well.
Go for it.
So basically, culture is the medium we grow into it. So it's a mix of religion, community, traditions, everything.
Yeah, so everyone's picked up on lots of keywords like the tradition, norms, the ways of doing things with a particular group. And one of the important things about culture, it's not something innate. By that I mean it's not something that we're born with. We're not born with culture. It's to do with our environment. And one of the ways that people tend to see culture is through using this iceberg concept of culture. And this is by a researcher called Edward T. Hall in the 1970s. So we've got the visible part of culture. So food, dress, music, visual arts. These are all things that you can see with your eye or you can taste. And so this is the visible part. But actually, culture itself is, a lot of it is hidden. And so you've got here what's called the shallow culture. I won't go through all this. I will share the slides after so you can go through it. And then you've got the deep culture, which is ingrained in you. And I will go through all these. I'll explain it in a slightly different way to this, just the iceberg concept. And this is my kind of way of thinking about it. And I did research in Thailand. I did a 5-year PhD study about education. And one of the ways I wanted to know was how to effectively teach. And for that, I needed to know the cultural context of the learners and also to be able to communicate better with the students. So this all formed part of my research. And the first way I thought about it, the layer 1 is to do with etiquette. So it's the etiquette layer. And I'll just read it out. The surface layer is the visible, the observable expression of culture like music, food, and clothes. Another way of saying this is the do's and don'ts of a particular culture. And this etiquette layer, it's actually quite easy to learn. You just need to do a little bit of research. You should do this and you don't do that. So that's at the kind of the top level. And in my example here, I've got in Thailand, don't touch another person's head. You just don't do it. Not that I go to another country when I'm traveling and I touch people's heads, but it's one of those things you should not do. And we're from all around the world in here. So I wanted to know, are there any other rules like do's and don'ts of your particular culture, which is different to others? Does anyone have some particular customs or anything that you should either do or not do when, or maybe you notice when a foreigner is in your country, they do something that they shouldn't do.
Hi Neon.
Hey,
Okay, so in Nigeria, there's this like particular don't that is very, very like common among like all the tribes. You're not supposed to give an elder money or anything at all with your left hand for some
oh
reason that I
really?
actually don't know, right? I actually don't know why, but like it's a sign of disrespect.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And in lots of Southeast Asia countries, like for giving business cards or give any gifts, you should not do it with one hand. You should do it with two hands. And yeah, so that's similar. You should not do it with the left hand. See, I would forget that probably because I'm left-handed. So I will give things with the left hand. When I do come to Nigeria, I'll have to try and remember that.
Yes, please.
Okay. The second level, the layer 2, this is the values and the understanding layer. So if you spend enough time in a different place, not just for a 2-week holiday, if you go there and try to learn and understand the values, and you start learning to know why you do something or why you don't do something. Now, the reason you should never touch a person's head in Thailand is it is seen as the highest, most important part of the body. So, and it's from the Buddhist tradition. In Buddhism, it is sacred. It's the font of knowledge. So you should never touch someone's head because of that. It shows disrespect. On the other side is your feet. Your feet are kind of the lowest part of your body and it's kind of dirty. So there's lots of rules. So you should never, when you're sitting down, point your feet at anybody. And or when you go into someone's house, you should never walk in and just with your shoes on. You should always take your shoes off. And I think in lots of cultures they have it very similar similar behavior. So this is the understanding layer. So you can learn this. Now, the last layer is the sensitivity, the empathy layer. Now, this only comes about after you spend a lot of time in a particular culture. You not only understand the reasons behind it, it becomes part of who you are. So I would not contemplate, I wouldn't even think about touching a person's head because it would just feel wrong. It just would make me feel uncomfortable. So this is like the empathy layer. Right. We are near the end going to talk about Nigeria because in our DAO we have many members from Nigeria. But before we discuss that, I want to give you some theories about cultural differences. And one of the reasons I think this is important, especially for us, is we are made up from many countries, many cultures in our DAO. And it's actually good to know how next time you're on a call with someone, you can listen to clues in there. I'll give you some ways to work out about their cultural norms So you can kind of work out what type of culture they come from. And there's lots of different ways to work this out. The first one is whether the high context or low context. I'll explain this. So members of a high context culture exhibit considerable sensitivity to non-verbal cues. What this means, relationship with other people are more important than what is said. So they place a lot of emphasis on relationship, and the spoken word is less important. So if you go to a country which is high context, then people will want to get to know you. So Thailand is a high context country, and one of the first questions you will be asked is, how old are you? Now, in England, that's kind of rude, especially if you talking to a woman. You don't ask people's ages, but there they want to know how old you are. And it's not to be rude. It's they want to know how to relate to you. So if they are older than you, you're supposed to defer to them, be respectful of them. If you're about the same age, then that's okay. You can talk to each other on the same level. But if you are older than them, they will defer to you. They'll be respectful of you. And so it's quite important that and you should not get offended if you go to a high context culture and they asking you lots of personal questions. They just want to know how to relate to you. Relies a lot on the explicit message to carry most of the information. So this is example. Most European countries, I would say, and America, we are low context cultures. So for example, if I talk to a friend and say, hey, let's meet for lunch tomorrow at 12 o'clock. I have a high expectation. As long as they've said yes, that's fine. I have a reasonably high expectation that we will meet about 12 o'clock the next day. In a high context culture, if I ask someone directly, let's meet at 12 o'clock for lunch, they will say yes. But come tomorrow and it's 12 o'clock and they haven't appeared, they will and I contact them. They might say, sorry, I had a hospital appointment at 12. And me being from a low context culture says, why didn't you just tell me you were busy at 12 o'clock? Now for the other person from the high context culture, for them, they did not want to cause disharmony or cause any, they wanted to give you the answer that you were looking for. And so it's sometimes quite easy to miscommunicate with people from these two types of cultures. And this has happened to me as well in Thailand. I've asked a direct question, shall we meet tomorrow at this time? They say yes, and then they do not turn up. And it's up until that point, 12 o'clock tomorrow, I'm happy because I'm thinking I will meet my friend for lunch. But actually, they had no intention of coming at all. Has anybody had similar experiences on their travels or can relate to this? I'm guessing not. Just me then. Anyway, let's move on. By the way, please interrupt me at any time if you want a better explanation or if you did not understand anything. Just interrupt me. I want it to be more like a workshop. Another way of looking at culture is to do with individualistic predisposition. So usually low context cultures are fairly individualistic. Again, we're talking about European, but not all European, and the US and Canada, North America. And it's kind of the preference of direct and overt communication. And for some people, that can be seen as confrontational. And in the UK, kind of we are individualistic, but not so much as, for example, US. And we do not have, or usually do not have, the confrontational kind of style. And one point I should have made at the beginning as well, I'm talking about general cultural differences between these different cultures. But of course, even within one country, people can have different aspects of high context, low context, individualistic or not. And so I'm just talking about this, the general, rather than because you might not relate to this. But one of the things that you will hear, say, an English person when they're talking about work or life, it's the word I. I did this and I achieved this. So it's a lot of I. In the Southeast Asian context, you will have the word we. We did this. I work for an international company, and once I absorbed these kind of ideas, I did look out for it. And it is true that Europeans, North Americans, we do a lot of I did this, I did that. Whereas Southeast Asian, it is a lot of more we. So it's a priority of personal interest and achievement. By the way, we're not saying this is good or bad. We're just outlining the differences. So in a collectivistic predisposition, so usually high context culture, so you have the indirect and covert communication style. And it says obedient and conforming behavior here. But essentially what this means is it wants social harmony. Disharmony is bad. So especially in a public setting, you want to not stand out. You want to conform with everybody else. And there's a very clear group identification. So it's the group interests and the harmony in society that's important, not my personal individual self. So here's a question. A newly arrived important American official, so from a low context country, arrives in an Asian country, which is a high context. They've arranged to meet their counterpart for a formal introduction. this was agreed to, but they just simply don't show up. Why could this be? Any ideas?
So high context is no,
So,
sorry. Low
so
context is
yeah,
yeah.
it's you have to get the concept. So low context, explicit message, overt communication, direct. What is said, what is spoken is the most important part. So they've arranged to have a meeting, whereas the person from the Asian country, what is said, what is communicated overtly is not so important. It's
Yeah,
more
see,
about relationships.
yeah, no. I would have never
Hey,
I mean, just being from here, from the US, it's like when someone says something like if you respect them, you take it seriously, like you take that like it's not it is what it is,
Yeah. So what is said, if you arrange to meet someone at a particular time, or you have an appointment with somebody and they don't turn up, what do you think of that person?
Oh, they're just blowing me off, like we're
Yeah,
not cool,
exactly.
like it's
Yeah.
disrespectful.
Indeed. So someone else is trying to speak as well.
I guess it's GM Steel. I was going to
Hey,
say,
yeah.
is it anything about like where the American, it's a one-on-one meet, it looks like maybe, and maybe the American says, yeah, one-on-one at this specific time, but maybe in the culture it's like you meet as a group, or that you arranged it by phone and it wasn't face to face, so they don't really know you that well, so maybe it's not them.
Yeah. So this actually happened to this is a actual story from John T. Hall's book about cross culture, and it's actually happened. This, I think I'm trying to remember the Asian country. I did know it, but they'd arranged to meet the leader in this place that they went to, and they just simply did not arrive. And they couldn't understand why, because they are important. So the rank is, they should be respected for that. But the other side of it, for the person in the Asian country, they don't respect your rank as such. They don't know you from anybody. You could be anybody. It's they before they will come and meet you in a formal setting. They need to get to know you. So a lot of times when you have meetings and things, it's not so formal. You will get invited to dinner or for lunch, and they want to get to know you. I went to a rural village in the northeast of Thailand to do my research, and I need to do some surveys about online safety for children. But I'd been there for a while, so I knew, rather than it taking 2 or 3 days, I was there for 2 weeks. And on the first day when I arrived, thinking I'll start to work, I was taken to a very long lunch. It was like 3 hours. By the time I got back, it was time to go home. So I did nothing that day. And part of that is they just want to know you and get to know you. And it's all about relationships. The fact that the director of the school was missed out on a day's work as well as me was neither here or there. Because I was going to be there for a couple of weeks, they wanted to know who this person is. So it's all about relationships. Okay, maybe you can find your country here. This is like collectivism versus individualism. They've been doing these kind of surveys till I think the late 60s, and every so often. What they've found is that, yes, culture does change in a country. But what they found was also that the respective between countries, that didn't change. So there are certain kind of cultural aspects of a particular culture stays during the decades. So it's been going on for many, many years now. So from that, you could see like Europe, North America, you've got Australia, South Africa. They're very individualistic countries, and other countries like India and Russia, they're kind of in the middle, and then more collectivistic countries, which I had to look on my map. I've got like a gaming mouse map, which has got the world map. So I had to find Nigeria on there. And so you are collectivistic. So we'll come more about Nigeria very soon. Right. So we are going to talk about Nigeria now. So please, if you're Nigerian, I would love to know your feedback. I will explain each one first, because just by looking at the numbers, you can't see.
I didn't even understand how, like, just to go to that nonsense face.
I'm sorry?
I think she didn't know that she was unmuted, so someone already separated.
This is the Hofstede index, and bottom right hand corner is the link to it. So it's not only just Nigeria, there are many other countries there that you can actually find information for. So this is actual research that has been done. It's not what I think. I just want to make that point very out. So please don't get angry if I say something bad. Right. So the first part is the power distance. Now, the power distance really measures whether a culture has a hierarchy, whether hierarchy is very important. And by the way, these are all measured out of 100. So 80 is very high. I will read out to you what the research says. People accept a hierarchical order in which everybody has a place and which needs no further justification. Hierarchy in an organization is seen as reflecting inherent inequalities. And this is quite interesting. It says centralization is popular. Now, where decentralization is a key. Subordinates expect to be told what to do, and the ideal boss is a benevolent autocrat. So is hierarchy important? Now we're talking in a Nigerian context. Who wants to answer that?
Hi, Neon.
Hello.
Okay, so like hierarchy is like the question you asked was, is hierarchy important like in Nigeria? Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to, the answer is yes. Most of the time, like we deal with, like as you said, like we have this centralized like way of doing things. Although like mostly it's always centralized, yeah. But like there's like different stories to tell. But generally I feel like maybe like 80% of the way things are done here are like, centralized, and there's always a structure in place. Yeah, I'm just going to say that.
Cool. That's
Move
awesome. Anybody else want to say anything about hierarchy in Nigeria? One thing I'm interested in as well is, how do you find working in a DAO where it's supposed to be decentralized?
Okay, so for me, I'm going to say that when we talk, like, for us here, when we say hierarchy, like, there is, like, how do I put it? Just like we have, steps, like step by step structure. That's how we have it, like, generally, like in Nigeria as well.
Yeah.
But
So
we have
what we're
this,
talking about
like,
is having a boss, and then the boss,
yes, there is
and
no
then
boss. So there's no actual boss. There's just like maybe a ceremonial head. Because at the end of the day, like, power is actually like split in between people, and there is always check and balances everywhere. Like the way the structure is currently right now, there's check and balance. We have this, like, although there is one person that has to be there as the head, like I'm going to say Nigeria in general, like the president, but then we use check and balances like a lot. So it's not really hard trying to be in line with the DAO as well. Yeah, I'm just going to say, like, it's not like absolute like centralization.
sure.
It's like that.
Yeah. And again, just want to emphasize, we're not talking about whether something is bad or good here. It's just whether a place has hierarchy. And
This is
usually,
just exciting for me, really.
yeah. So this goes with Thailand as well. Its hierarchy is very important. So you have the king at the top, and then similar, I'm guessing, in Nigeria, because we've already spoken about elders. So elders are held in very high esteem, and in a society that values hierarchy, that's quite important. In where the power distance hierarchy is not so important, of course, elders are respected, but they don't have this natural deference that goes with it. Someone from like North American or European can vouch for that, or maybe have a different view. Silence will mean that you agree 100% with me.
I think one thing that I was going to say, from a society standpoint, maybe that's quite a bit different, but really from
Oh, I can't hear you now.
Sorry. Is that better?
That's better, yeah.
I was going to say in North America, like maybe society-wise is not necessarily that way, but work-wise maybe is, from the standpoint of traditional organizations and assigned tasks and all those kind of things. So maybe in America it's like works that way, but maybe the rest of life's not.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Right, the next part. Oh, yes.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to like add to me this point. Like, I actually like for someone that like is used to like being in like a centralized environment and all. I wanted to add that like having like being in a DAO, and it's very very like refreshing because it's something I'm not used to. Like for example, when I first joined and we're still in the Uma server, they were like usually over here like when they are like for a centralized head and all, we usually call them by their like title and all, maybe like Mr. or like you get what I mean. So like I was thinking maybe when I go here I'll call Clayton maybe Mr. Clayton or something. I think I made that mistake once and they corrected me and was like, no, we're not like that. It's like I just wanted to add that it's quite refreshing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also someone coming in from expecting to be given tasks and then just to do the tasks, whereas in a DAO you have to be more self-motivated and find the tasks. So it can be a culture change in that respect, and it takes time. Right, the next part is individualism. Now, in this part, Nigeria is low, so it's 30%. So this means Nigeria is a collectivistic society. So I'll just read out what it says here. So there's commitment to the member group, be that a family, extended family, or extended relationships. For example, like our DAO. So loyalty in a collectivist culture is paramount and overrides most other societal rules and regulations. The society fosters strong relationship where everyone takes responsibility for fellow members of their group. Now, from the activities from some of you, like in the social media, education, onboarding, I think that rings very true because you're taking responsibility for fellow members and helping them. So in collectivist societies, offense leads to shame and loss of face. And this is true actually in Thailand as well. Losing face is the worst thing. Thailand is known as the land of smiles. And what people don't know is that Thais will smile when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're angry. The most important part is social harmony. So if they are smiling, it doesn't mean that they're happy necessarily. They could be angry or they could be sad. You just don't know. But the reason they do that is because they do not want to disturb you or have say something bad and lose face. So that's really important. And
Hi, sorry.
yeah,
So sorry, there's a little ring on my side. Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, I was just going to say that individualism in Nigeria is currently on the rise, actually.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, not like in the sense of like working. I guess it's like collectivism is still like high and active, like still very strong, but like in that like losing face aspect that I think Nigerians no longer care about that kind of stuff. Particularly the new age, like the new generation, Gen Z, I guess. So like they're more individual than like the previous, like than the millennials, and yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's happened in Thailand as well. The younger people are less deferential than others. But this bit sounded true to me. The society fosters strong relationship where everyone takes responsibility for fellow members of their group. So I see this happening, not just Nigerian, but everyone in the DAO
Yeah,
is
definitely.
doing this, helping each other out. Oh. The next one is quite tricky because it's masculinity. It doesn't mean whether it's male or female. There are certain traits which are seen as masculine. So for example, like competition, trying to achieve success all the time, being the winner, confrontation. Well, these are all seen as masculine characteristics, and it could be a man or woman doing this. And we're just calling it masculinity for want of a better word. And then if it's a feminine society, then the values are slightly different. It's more about caring for others and caring for their quality of life. So in terms of this then, Nigeria with 60 is a masculine society. So it says here, in a masculine country, people live in order to work. Managers are expected to be decisive and assertive. The emphasis is on equity, competition, and performance. And conflicts are resolved by fighting them out. Is that true?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, so like about this, like this is okay. So about this masculinity, I mean like from like time, like men are kind of, I know this is not really about like men or female or whatever, female or male, but like men are the ones that, you know, when anytime it's a position of power or something that has to do with like responsibility and, you know, making tough decisions, it has always been, you know, the men doing all that kind of stuff. Like people are always like, you know, putting them, because they feel that they have it in their like genes, and they have it in their blood. And you know, female, they really can't, you know, make decisions and without using emotions and, you know, stuff like that. But then like
Right, that's
recently
interesting.
like things are like, just like, you know, Chopin said, things are starting to change. And we are actually really like the new generation, I'm going to say Gen Z, we are actually trying to like take away that barrier and make it like, you know, make instead of making conflict, we try as much as possible to, you know, rub minds together and, you know, try to, you know, erase all those things that has not, I wouldn't say erase entirely, but, you know, improve, okay? Improve, you know, those things that has, you know, that has been from right from time, from like, you know, our elders. And we're trying to just like, you know, improve those things. So I
Yeah,
was even expecting it to be like maybe 80, but seeing that it's actually on 60, that means
yeah,
we're actually trying our best. I mean, yeah, this is
yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, there are other countries which is more masculine. It's, I think there's the one that was most was, I think, Hungary, of all places. And yeah, so this is where you diverge from Thailand, for example, because Thailand is kind of more feminine country in the sense uh, that means both men and women kind of the caring and wanting others or worrying about others' quality of life is more important than actual out and out competition. But of course, there's lots of differences. But do you think being in the DAO helps in that matter to make everyone more kind of equal and
Yeah,
I
I definitely say that it does. It does. It goes a long way. Like many of us, like I can't speak for every other Nigerian here, but like for me, it definitely has like opened my eyes to a lot of things. And yeah, it has changed my outlook on a lot, and that's changed like my actions and reactions towards like situations in like society and in my social group, like among friends and all of that generally.
nice? Who else was trying to speak there?
So it's actually like a very tough call, you know, trying to break out of like something that you're used to. So yeah, I think what has really helped most Nigerians, like in general, is that we're actually trying to get involved with, you know, a place that is not here. So it's really refreshing for me personally. I would say it's very refreshing. Like it's really cool to be open to new things, open to new culture, to be able to, you know, connect with other people that are not from, you know, where you are. And I'd say that it has been really, really like, you know, awesome. Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Right, the next one on the list is uncertainty avoidance. And the way to describe this is when you're thinking of the future, you want it to be less less ambiguous. So a country which has a high uncertainty avoidance would be a country where there's lots of rules and regulations about what to do, when to do them. So in many kind of European countries, again, in North American countries, and also some countries like including Thailand, where it's high uncertainty avoidance and there's lots of rules, there's lots of regulations, because they want to know in every situation what needs to be done. In a country with very low uncertainty avoidance, it's kind of more pragmatic and people go with the flow. You don't generally need to follow the exact rules. So country that springs to mind is Italy, and you kind of do things in an informal manner. You might not be following the rules exactly. For example, in terms of parking, you're not supposed to park somewhere, but you might just park somewhere anyway because you're not causing any problems. But in another country like Norway or Scandinavia, you should obey the rules. So now Nigeria is in the kind of the middle. There's no, so this kind of say there are some rules and regulations, but also you are quite pragmatic and you kind of make your own rules sometimes as well.
Yeah. So sorry. When
Yeah,
when I think
please.
about uncertainty avoidance as like the way it applies to Nigeria, there are certain rules that have been made and have been seen as like the staple for like decades over here. Like it's a must. Not now. It's not necessarily a must, but like it was a must. Like to go to school, definitely a must. So like in Nigeria, if your child is not a university graduate or at least a BSc holder, like that's like Bachelor of Arts or Science
Uh-huh.
or something like that. So like if they weren't at least a university degree holder, like that definitely, like parents especially frown upon that because they see that as the child not having any vision or any plan for its life. So like in order to avoid all of that, like in order to avoid like they say go to school so you won't be poor, or go to school so you can get an actual good paying job. So like in order to avoid that uncertainty, in order to make sure that okay, at least I have
Sure.
this in hand and that could help me. So like parents always over here they always push their kids to go to school. I know in some other places abroad like they usually liberal, and some people don't usually go beyond high school, but over here like 60-70% of us go
Right.
beyond high school and even first degree. Some like
Awesome.
yeah. Well, in terms like the parking parts, like you mentioned, they are like we are sort of like pragmatic. It's a lot of other things that don't involve like like quality of living per se. Like parking, for example, there are some places that people aren't supposed to park, but we park there a lot. There are a lot of cars on the road in Nigeria. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, cool. Right. The last two parts I didn't actually include in my research because these came along a bit later. I just concentrate on the first four. But long-term orientation just means how fixed to the past you are or how important the past is towards a thing. Now, Nigeria scores very low, 13. This means that it's not necessarily a bad thing, by the way, whether it's high or low. So people in such societies have a strong concern with establishing the absolute truth. Is that true? Are you concerned about the truth?
Okay, yeah, we are. I mean, like, in terms of like when I first like heard like long-term orientation, like, you know, like you said, the connection to the past, right? Like, is that what did I hear you right?
Yeah, you did. So
Okay,
let me explain a bit more. So
sure.
there's two kinds of societies prioritize two existential goals differently. So normative society, so this is Nigeria, prefer to maintain time-honored traditions and norms while viewing societal change with suspicion.
Yeah,
Does that?
I think I understand that now. So like, in terms of, I'm going to say from the perspective, like my perspective, I feel like I think this is actually very correct. We honestly, like, we view our past as, I think it's good. I think it's very okay, but then there are some things that has to do with the past that we do not really move in line with. I mean, like, and we are definitely like, from what I have seen and from my own personal self, like, I have, it's something that I definitely do not want to like practice too much. If there is something that I love so much about, like, you know, Nigeria, like, you know, the past or something, I'm going to say the culture, like the good parts, like, for example, when the, being loved and, being nice, and this togetherness and stuff, I love that part. But there are some certain parts that aren't really nice, and people are actually really trying to move past it very fast. So I guess that's why it's so low, like 13.
Right.
13.
Cool. Right. So,
Hey,
oh yeah. So sorry.
oh, okay, go on, Shop.
Please,
No.
please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say on your note on like them frowning on sorry, them frowning on like new stuff and all. So like I just want to give an example. Like in recent times, like most Nigerians now are looking into like crypto and tech space and everything like that and all. And then it can be very, very disheartening when, like, the older generations that used to like normal, okay, going to work, having a 9 to 5 job, like leaving in the
Mhm.
morning, coming, like it is very, very disheartening when they like frown upon it. Because sometimes, like, even till now, when I like explain to some people that I am in the tech space and I do this and like crypto space in general and DAOs, and they're like, what the fuck is that? What are you talking about? And like it is very hard to explain to them, and they just treat it as like you not being serious, basically. I just wanted
Right.
to add that.
Sure. Someone else wanted to
Yeah,
speak as well. Yeah.
she definitely took my points right out of my mouth. I mean, like, I literally explained to my mom that like this is what I do. I work in a DAO, and she thinks I'm into cyber like crime or something like that. I'm like, it's just kind of funny how like to them they hold like white collar jobs like going wearing a suit and tie going to work like she already mentioned. They hold that in high regard and they see like working from
Yeah.
home
Yeah.
as laziness or joblessness, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. The last one is indulgence, and this is to do with the extent to which people try to control their desires and impulses. Okay. Right. This is very high. So I'm just going to read this. So please don't hate me if I say anything bad. I don't think there's anything bad here, actually. Let's read it. With a very high score of 84, Nigerian culture is said to be one of indulgence. People in societies classified by a high score generally exhibit a willingness to realize their impulses and desires with regard to enjoying life and having fun. Is that true?
Oh my
You like having fun.
like
Awesome.
so much, like we enjoy having fun, like we to me I feel we have a lot of problems, like, okay, I'm not gonna say we have a lot of problems, but like we do have a lot of problems. We have a lot of things that we're going through. Even teenagers, people that are, close to adulthood, we are going through like a lot from parents, from the society. There is a bar set high, just like we talked about before. You either be a lawyer or a doctor, like things like bar is
Uh-huh.
set so high, and if you don't meet up to that bar, you are completely, you know, pressured by your parents, and you're pressured by society, and you're looked down at. So like, this is our only getaway. Like, this is how we try to move past that dark side. I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is me. So like, we
Yeah.
definitely do like have fun, like when we have the chance. Sometimes we even laugh about things that aren't even funny, just so we don't get emotionally taken away, or depressed and stuff. It's weird.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Right. And to finish up, and this is my favorite sentence. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
We actually call it catching cruise.
Catching cruise.
Yeah, that's what we call it over here, catching cruise. We love to catch cruise.
Awesome. I've learned something as well today. Cool. Catching cruise. Right. This is the last bit of what it says here. And I think this is the reason why it's great to have you all in the DAO. And maybe this is why you came into the DAO. They possess a positive attitude and have a tendency towards optimism. So maybe optimistic oracle, optimism. There's something in there.
Okay, like yeah, we actually do try to be optimistic, and I'm not going to say like it actually, like, optimistic oracle actually caught my attention. I'm not going to like, but it's a very cool story. But like,
But
it's, yeah.
maybe it wasn't the reason you came, but maybe it's the reason you stayed.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is definitely true. This is true. Yeah.
Okay. So how did I do about Nigerian culture?
Awesome. Like, splendid. This is like almost 100% true. Like the analysis and everything. I feel so like good knowing that you made this research, and it's really an honor. Like, I really do appreciate this. It's cool.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Oh, and I know you were actually like you were worried about being wrong about like, but yeah,
I know,
actually you were
because I
right
knew.
about most things actually.
You're right about a lot of them. I almost
Yeah,
feel like you're from here.
exactly.
Yeah, I really want to come now at some point. We need to do a SuperUMAn DAO event in
That
Nigeria.
would be that would be nice. That would be
Yeah,
definitely nice.
yeah. Does anybody have any questions about what we just talked about before we end? I know we've gone over a little bit, but maybe a couple of minutes if you had any questions.
Hey, Neon, from the text hub, Greatness says, Neon Demon, please come to Nigeria. So now you got to go, I guess.
I'd love to. I'd love to. I love traveling. I gave up my job several years ago to do traveling and charity work, and did my PhD as well. And I've been stuck at my mum's for a couple of years now. I really want to travel. But I've met
Let you
all
go.
you lovely people, and it's great. So I'm having online journeys now.
I'll let you go. Let me know. I want to go with you.
Yes. Cool. Any other questions or thoughts or
GM, definitely
comments?
come over.
Cool. I hope that was a bit helpful about how our culture affects our thinking and how we approach each other in the DAO as well. And have a think about whether you're from a low context or high context culture. And following on from when we talk about positive communications is just give people the benefit of the doubt. Charitable listening. I mean, I'm really big on if someone says something a little bit not right in terms, just give them the benefit of the doubt because they're probably don't mean it or don't know that it's offensive, and maybe just put them to the side or DM them, says, I know you didn't mean this, but this could be interpreted as such as this. And again, with our cultural baggage that we bring to the DAO, it just means be respectful to each other, be kind to others, but also be kind to yourself. So thank you, be positive, and be super.